What's up, Bruins fans? I'm here to give you the latest info on your beloved Boston Bruins. This video, I'm going to talk about why I think Don Sweeny and the Bruins management should be shouldering more of the blame with regards to this Swayman contract situation. If you've been liking my Bruins content, please leave me a like and subscribe. If you've already done so, thank you, and let's get into it. It's beginning to be the norm in fan circles for fans to be frustrated at Jeremy Swayman right now and not at all at Don Sweeny and Co. Heck, there's even been a theme in the Bruins fan base for years that they use a player's contract demands or what they end up getting in a salary against them and yet never look at the person who gave them that contract or what the team is offering. I want to take a look at how we got here and to think about what could have gone differently if maybe Swayman was signed last year to a long-term deal. We've been hearing reports that they're far apart, and then TSN's Darren Dreger said they're close, but then Elliot Friedman recently said on the 32 Thoughts, the podcast, that he doesn't believe that to be true. In fact, he thinks that nothing has changed at all from the previous report and wonders if the Bruins regret not taking Swayman to arbitration. Take a listen.
Okay, so you mentioned his name just a moment ago, Elliot. Jeremy Swayman, the RFA netminder in Boston. Negotiation that, by all accounts, had a wide gap between the two sides. Any update there? Are they inching any closer?
I'm not hearing anything like that. I know there were some reports that maybe Swayman and the Bruins were closer than people had thought, or even I had thought. I don't have, again, with the caveat that anything can change in one phone call. I just don't have any reason to believe that yet at this point in time.
There seems to be this notion that the Bruins took Swayman to arbitration last year, but that was in fact Swayman who took the Bruins because a deal couldn't be reached and they were far apart. Last season is where I feel this all started and where the Bruins made their first mistake along with Swayman's agent. It was rumored last year that Swayman was asking for a 5x5 deal, but the Bruins weren't even close. Swayman then suggests he will go to arbitration and the Bruins don't stop him. It's not uncommon at all for players coming out of their entry-level deal to hit a mid-size home run nowadays. We all saw the potential in Jeremy Swayman coming into last season, so it's safe to assume that the Bruins did too. Except Sweeny loves his bridge deals and very rarely gives the home run after the entry-level deal. Neither McAvoy or Pastrnak got the big-ticket contract right after their entry level, but got it shortly after. But I also feel that wasn't a trend at the time when both signed their contracts. Swayman's agent obviously didn't prepare Swayman for what was going to be said in that arbitration, because if he did, he wouldn't have been taken back by it and make it known how much he hated the process. The Bruins, on the other hand, knew exactly a player's mindset coming out of these types of hearings and know exactly what it can do to a player. Bruins should have done everything in their power not to go to arbitration, and let's be honest, should have signed him to a long-term deal last year. Bruins choose not to take him this year because they knew it wouldn't end well, and Swayman would get to choose the term and walk himself right into UFA. Friedman saying that they might doubt not going to arbitration this year, I don't agree with it. They wouldn't just look bad in front of Swayman if they didn't get this done, but it would send a message to the room which they don't want. Not to mention the Bruins last year got to select the term and could have signed Swayman to a 2-year deal and elected to sign him to a 1-year deal, which gets us to this mess. We've already heard reports that the $10 million ask is no longer a thing, and if it ever was, they're more in the $8 million range now, but it's rumored the Bruins offer starts with a 6. I know not everyone is going to agree with me, but anything that doesn't start with a 7 is a low offer at this point. Making the claim he hasn't established himself as a starter is a valid one, but he was given the role at the end of the season and in the playoffs. It's not his fault the Bruins had a rotation system. The Bruins have already shown in the past they're willing to give larger deals to goalies that have shown they can be the starter, because they did it with Tuukka Rask, and Swayman's stats aren't far off from Rask at all if you compare them at the time. And in fact, the Bruins did a 1-year deal on Tuukka that paid him a little bit, and then they had to pay him a huge deal the following year when they could have signed him to a long-term deal back then as well. The Bruins are the ones that forced themselves in a corner when they needed to trade Ullmark, because they'd shown Swayman last year they thought he was the starter by trying to trade Ullmark at the deadline. They have now traded Ullmark, so obviously believe in Swayman. So why not pay him like they do? If they sign Swayman to a 1-year deal, they can get a low AAV like they want, and it will please the side of the fan base that wants him to prove himself. I guarantee this, though, it's going to cost the Bruins way more if they do that, because Igor Shesterkin is about to reset the market next year and raise the bar on what it costs to pay a starter. If they sign him to a 2-year deal, they walk him into UFA status, and the teams can start outbidding the Bruins, which will cost them way much more money. Sure, Swayman can take a team-friendly deal, but why should he? This hasn't happened in Boston in years, and if Boston doesn't at least meet him halfway, this is going to cost the Bruins so much more in the long run. No matter what happens, though, I feel Swayman is about to be treated the same way some of the fan base used to treat Tuukka Rask after his big deal. Some, no matter what, will just dump on him and say he isn't worth his contract, which is their right, but if you ask me, it makes no sense. You want to be frustrated about how much a player makes? Talk to the person that paid him. Sweeny and Co. are just as much to blame for this whole mess and are gladly watching the fan base drag Swayman through the mud right now. I'm not saying I 100% agree with the rumored ask from Swayman, but I'm sure as heck don't think Sweeny and the Bruins organization have handled this properly at all. I truly, at this point, have no clue what Swayman's next deal will look like, but I'm fairly confident it will be with the Boston Bruins. That's a wrap on today's video. To stay up to date on all the news surrounding the Boston Bruins, please subscribe and drop me a like. If news breaks surrounding the Boston Bruins, be sure to check out the channel. If you've already subscribed, thank you. I'll see you next time.